it's Leigh from coloringqueen.net, and I thought today we'd have a colour and chat, and I'm colouring out of Eriy's colouring book. Thought I'd colour the little giraffe, maybe just in real time. So I hope that you guys are having a great day today. It is an absolutely beautiful day here today in Brisbane. I picked the Prismacolors for this, and they're not really my favourite one for this book. I don't know why I did that. Bit silly. I'll have to change my mind on it later, I think. Yeah, so I hope that you guys are having a good day today. How are you? Well, what's new, pussycat? That's what I say to Millie. Every morning I say, what's new, pussycat? And she just looks at me like I am a complete and utter idiot. But that's okay, cats do that. So what's new, pussycats? Kitty cats. Speaking of pets and kitty cats, I've just filled in this morning to adopt a couple of dogs, and I've filled in before and I haven't heard back, but this morning, just as I was about to film, one of the adoption places rang me and sort of gave me a phone interview, which I was totally unprepared for, but hopefully that's gone well, and hopefully they'll consider us. I keep finding in all the rescue Facebook groups, etc., that everyone is having the same experience as us, like that they want to adopt a dog, but unfortunately there are so many applications that they're not getting called back or no response at all. So, I mean, we really wanted to adopt, and rather than get a puppy, we wanted to rescue someone, just like we did with Millie, because Millie, when we got her, she was frightened of people and she was terrified of being groomed, and yeah, she was just a little scaredy cat, and she hadn't been groomed for a while and she was all matted, and I don't know what went on in Millie's life, but in the last year she has just, you know, blossomed so much, and she's sitting on laps now and she's wanting affection all the time, and she's gained weight, so I think the vet's going to be upset about that. And she's gained like 1 kilo. I think she's doing a bit of corona eating and quarantine eating, but and you know, she also, you know, fell in love with Charlie and they became inseparable, and she's been grieving a bit, so she's a lot better now than what she was. But just like the joy of, you know, rescuing a pet and giving it a loving home, and, you know, really sticking it out when she scratches me and everything else. We just want that in a dog. So I filled in 2 applications this morning, and one of them has called me back, and that's as far as I've got with callbacks with the pet services, because they seem to be just overwhelmed with responses. And the one that I spoke to this morning said she'd had hundreds of emails, and she was just basically looking at the ones that she'd most recently received, and also looking at the age of people and whatnot. So, because depending on how active you would be looking after the rescue animal. But so it's actually a long way away. It's a couple of 100 kilometers for us to travel, if we were successful in adopting. So, I mean, I hope we get to adopt something soon, some little dog, because I tell you, once you've had a dog that's with you constantly 24/7 that you take everywhere, it's really hard without one. So I'm hoping, cross my fingers, cross my toes and everything else, I'm hoping that you know, we might at least get a meet and greet or something to prove that we would be worthy little parents. And I hope so for Millie's sake as well, because she's very, very lonely without a little friend her size to play with, you know. So, and hopefully the new dog would love to, you know, play with Millie too. They'd stimulate each other. So I've done that this morning and been out in the garden. It is an absolutely beautiful day here today in Brisbane. The sun is shining and it's sort of hard to believe that it's actually winter, because it's like 22 degrees. It's a beautiful sunny day. Lovely in the garden. All my tomatoes are ripening up just beautifully. But during the week we had some horrific wind and rain. It was so bad. Things were flying all over the garden and everything was ended up in the pool. The pool looks like it's had a tree kind of dumped in it. It's got that much leaves and whatnot. So I'm going to have to go down and get the scooper thing and clean that out a bit, because it has really got so much stuff in it now with the wind and the rain that we had earlier in the week. But more devastating was my greenhouse that's got all my little seedlings in it. Yes, I know some of you probably hate hearing about my garden hobby. I never thought I would be a garden person, seriously, never. Never in my wildest dreams did I predict this about my personality. But anyway, my little greenhouse that had all my little seedlings in it, it blew over and a lot of the seedlings suicided and kamikazed, and it's just all over. It was just piles of little dirt, graves everywhere with little seedlings, and all the tags that said what they were all blew out, and the whole thing was smashed up against the pool fence. It was crazy. The wind was so strong. Every time I went outside a few days ago, I got like an ice cream headache. It was that cold. And so I've pretty well resigned myself to the fact that I've, you know, lost my seedlings, and I'm going to have to either replant or just do something different. This one's cream, by the way. The other one was peach. Sometimes people ask me sometimes to put the colours in, but sometimes I forget. I'm very sorry. I don't do tutorials or anything. I'm just having a try around to see if this will actually look all right. So I don't know if it will or not. So we'll just hope for the best. And I wish I'd used some Muji pencils rather than the Prizzies. But anyway, maybe we use them on the background. Yeah, so I'm either going to have to replant everything there or just start afresh. I don't know. But these are the joys, I guess. And it's been cold all over Australia from what I can gather from the weather. So we're not the only ones, but it's over for us now and we're nice and warm. Well, today at least we are. So last week, David's mum was quite sick and she was taken by ambulance to hospital twice. She went to the first hospital, and she's in Sydney, we're in Brisbane, so we just have to rely on David's brother to sort of keep us up to date. And we did think we might have to go down to Sydney and just, you know, see if we can be of any assistance. But the first hospital they took her to, she was in a lot of like stomach pain and shortness of breath, and she passed out, and it was all not good. And they took her to the first hospital and they did the COVID-19 test, and she was fine. She didn't have that. But they didn't give her anything for the pain, and they basically just said she was fine and sent her home and she'd be right in the morning. But of course she was worse in the morning, and the pain was, she said, unbearable. And she was having a lot of trouble just even standing up. So his brother rang us and said, you know, what do I do? And I said, just, you know, get an ambulance, get another ambulance, and this time go to a different hospital. Because luckily, you know, there's a choice of different hospitals to go to. And so they did that, and at the different hospital they actually gave her painkillers, and they said it was acute pancreatitis, which is very painful, which she already has had bouts of before. So I kind of don't understand why they didn't identify that first up, but anyway. So they've changed her medication and whatnot, and she's got to take all these pills, etc., for the rest of her life. But look, you know, it is what it is. As you get older, you tend to get different problems, don't you? I don't know if I should have done that. Anyway, we'll see what it's like when it's finished. I don't know if I've put too much yellow in this little giraffe, but it's sort of hard to tell sometimes until you finish it out. And I'm not enjoying using my Prismacolors on this book. I should have used the Mugis, and I really don't know why I did that. It was very remiss of me, because I know that my Mugi pencils work far better on here. But anyway, far better for me. But we'll see. See what happens. So what have you guys been doing this week? Have you been colouring or crafting or curled up in front of TV or working, or what have you been actually doing this week? We haven't done a whole lot. We've been watching Blacklist on TV. We're so involved in it, and Netflix or whatever service it is that we're using to get it only releases a couple of episodes at a time. And it's very annoying because you just get so involved in what's going on and you really want to watch the next episode. But then, of course, it's not there. It's so annoying. I think we should just watch things on TV where they're old and all the seasons are already there, because otherwise it's too disappointing waiting around all the time. Don't know if you guys are like that. And if you've got any recommendations for shows, I feel like we've done all of our shows, or all of the ones that we've got the seasons for on TV. Some of them haven't caught up with America. So if you can recommend anything, we love crime, anything gory like serial killers, love a good serial killer, love Criminal Minds, and love NCIS, and We were really enjoying watching the series of Strike Force, and then they changed the main characters for the last season, and I just don't find them very likeable. I feel like we should see out the season so we can call it done, but also don't really like the new characters. I hate that when they change characters. Like, sometimes it's for the better. Actually, I'm not sure about that, but on Strike Force it definitely wasn't for the better. And notwithstanding that one of the main character changes was an Australian actor, I still don't think it's any good. But we only watched one episode of the new season before we were like, no, not happy. So, I mean, how long do you give a new season or a show before you decide, no, I'm not watching any more of that? I mean, we weren't even 10 minutes into it before we were like, no, no more. I can't take it, it's boring. And so David and I had our anniversary the other day, 21 years together. Can you believe it? I never thought we would be together 21 years. Well, never really thought about it, to be honest. You just sort of go along, don't you? And it is what it is type thing. So we didn't do anything for the anniversary. We didn't go out or anything like that. First of all, because there's not really that many restaurants around in this area that we want to go to, and also with, you know, COVID-19, I don't really want to put myself out there unnecessarily when I don't need to. So it wasn't essential to go out, if you know what I mean. And it just doesn't feel right to go out. I don't think we've got anything much to celebrate at the moment, you know. It doesn't feel like a celebration. Plus it was cold on the day of our anniversary. I don't want to get cold. And you know, half the time you go out for dinner, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I just feel like it's a really waste of money, because, and probably because only one of us is working, you know, at the moment, which is David. But sometimes I feel like it's just such a waste of money when I could have made something better at home. Like, you know, if it was something that I couldn't cook that well, then I'd be happy to go and pay the money. But I sort of calculate everything on, you know, what I could do with that money instead, and it just doesn't add up sometimes just to do it. I mean, obviously it's good having a night off from cooking and all the rest of it, but winter you get to cook so many cool things. Like, I've got the slow cooker and I can cook so many great things in that and just bung it in and basically give it a stir every now and again, and then it's dinner, and David always seems to like it, so he's pretty easily pleased though. The only thing that I would pay for, like right now, rather than cook myself, would be if we went out and got Lebanese food, because I absolutely love Lebanese food. I might just... And I've made it before in the past, but it took me like all day to cook the things, you know, and chop. I actually don't have a food processor, so I have to chop everything by hand, and I'm a slow chopper. Oh, I want to keep my fingers, that's why. But it took me all day to make like a Lebanese feast, and to be honest, I actually think it was much better when we buy it. Just don't think I've got that knack for Lebanese food. Now, admittedly, I've only cooked it once or twice, but I just don't think I did a good job of it. I think the Lebanese restaurants that we used to go to in Sydney did a far superior job than what I did. And obviously I'd like to practice, but really they used to do it so much better than I could. So in Brisbane, since we've moved here, I've been craving Lebanese food, and I always joke, you know, we should get some posted up from Sydney, because we had our favourite restaurants there for Lebanese food, and we haven't found a place in Brisbane, although David, when he was working the other day, went past a Lebanese restaurant in the city. We're out in the suburbs, we're out in the sticks here, and it looked like it could be a good place to go out for dinner. But I think it was actually closed, he said, so I wouldn't mind going there and trying it, because I definitely have a Lebanese place on the schedule. Don't know, do I want dark brown, or we'll try this one. So that would be good if we could find a place and have it as our favourite Lebanese place, because since we've moved here, we've developed favourites for different things. Like, after a lot of looking around, we've found our place that we would go and get Chinese, the place for hamburgers, the place that you would go and get meat, the vegetables that if I haven't got them in my garden, where we go and buy those. Our place for sourdough bread, which I love sourdough. And so we've got all these different sorts of places that we've found, but we still haven't found the Lebanese food place. So hopefully we'll find that soon. We also haven't found a place for Indian food. I think of Indian a little bit like Lebanese. Like, it does take all day if you're going to do the whole full-on production of it with the breads and the chutneys and whatnot, if you're making it all from scratch. So sometimes, even though I can cook Indian food, I just prefer to buy it, because it's so much fluffing about to make all the things. And yes, I know you don't need all the things, but David wants them. And so the yogurts and whatnot. So I hope we find a good Lebanese place and a good Indian place. Yeah, so for the anniversary, we stayed at home, and we don't usually buy gifts, and with just being on the one income, it's not really prudent to do that. I'm such a boring, cautious person with money. And so we just stayed at home, and we just had some burgers, which we actually bought takeaway and got it, picked it up when it was ready and just sat at home, and that was it. I was going to make a cake, but when I checked out the baking supplies, I didn't really have all the ingredients to make a cake, and I didn't want to go to the shop just to get cake supplies, and honestly, when I make a cake, it's hard to get it eaten because there's only two of us and we don't really eat half a cake each, although I could. So yeah, it was just incredibly quiet, but nice, you know. We didn't really feel the urge to go out and do anything, and it was just nice staying at home. It was nice and warm inside, and Millie was sitting on the couch with us, and she's got this thing where she gives me a bit of attention and then she goes all over David, and I was hoping to get a bit more from her, but you know, cats. And so she sat on my lap for a while, and then she went and sat on David's lap, and the poor thing, he had just tracksuit pants on, and she started making biscuits or making bread on him. And you know, when cats do the whole kneading, I call that making biscuits or making bread, but I don't know if you guys call it something different. But the good thing is her claws were going right through poor David, and he's sitting there wincing in pain while she's making her biscuits. But the good thing is, being a Himalayan, apparently they're very lazy. I never call her this, but you know, that's what I read about them. So she gets tired after she makes half a dozen biscuits usually, and so you don't have to put up with the claws in you for too long before she's all worn out. Like sometimes she only makes 2 biscuits, like a little snack, and she gets all worn out and has a sleep. So it's not all the time that you'll be suffering with it. So I thought, I'm going to fix this up off screen and blend it out perfectly because I'm a bit away from the book. Today, I can't quite reach over to where David's moved my desk. We'll sit with the giraffe. So I don't know if I've ever told you how David and I met. But today I'll tell you how we met. So I don't think I've ever mentioned this one before. So one of my friends, her mother died, and that was, you know, expected. She was a ripe old age and a very lovely woman. And at the time, I wasn't able to go to the funeral because I had a very intense job at that period of time. And so a lot of us were at work and we weren't able to go to her mother's funeral. So we thought that we would meet up at a pub or a hotel on the weekend after the funeral and have a bit of like a little wake type thing, and you know, be there and be supportive, and also remember, you know, my friend's mother, who was absolutely lovely lady. They'd come over from South Africa when they were, I don't know, in their 20s, and had raised their 5 children in Australia, and she was a really lovely lady, very kind, and it was really sad to see her get dementia and age, as we all do, but she was just such a kind lady. Anyway, so we thought we'll meet at the pub, all of us that couldn't attend the funeral because of work commitments, and pay our respects and whatnot. So the time came to go to that meeting, which was on a Saturday night. And at the time, I was going to university. I was doing one of my degrees, and because I worked full-time, and I actually had 2 part-time jobs as well, and I went to 2 universities of an evening to do 2 separate degrees, and one was by remote learning, online learning. But it wasn't online, it was distance education. And so that weekend, the university had what's called a weekend school, where you went to uni over the weekend to basically catch up on anything that you might have missed, because, you know, most people went to work full time, and most people weren't silly like me and had 2 part-time jobs as well, and you know, everything else. And the reason I had that, by the way, is because I paid for my uni because of the way my family situation is and all the rest of it. I don't want to go into that, but if I wanted to go to uni, it was up to me to pay for it. And it was pretty expensive for one of my courses. And the other degree that I did, my boss paid for the course, and I had to pay if I failed a subject, or if, and I had to pay for the books. So anyway, that's the reason why I was at this weekend school. So I was at this weekend school, and I was, you know, all weekend long from 8 o'clock in the morning till like 8:30 at night. And I came home at 8:30 and thought, you know, I'll just have a bowl of muesli, which is my idea of dinner for one. And I'm just going to, you know, watch TV, watch the bill, and I'm going to just, you know, have an early night. I had a splitting headache, and I just really had enough. And all my friends, you know, had met up at this pub, and my friend, male friend, kept calling me up saying, you know, are you coming? You know, you've got to come, you've got to come. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. And he's like, you can't leave me here, you know, you've got to come, you've got to come. And I was like, I don't really want to go, you know, I've had this big weekend and I really don't want to go. It's just too much, you know. I've got so much to study and so much to do and all the rest of it. And so I didn't really want to go at all, but he kept begging me to go and insisting that I go, and he basically just didn't want to be stuck with a pile of people that he didn't really know, and you know, just wanted me to be there. Anyway, so in the end I agreed, and I took along a friend of mine from uni and went with him. And so I get there, and my male friend says that he's brought along a couple of friends as well, and one of them was someone that I'd known for years and years, and another one was a friend that I had never met before, who had been living in Denmark for the last 7 years. And although I think I'd met his brother, you know, we were never sort of good friends, just acquaintances, or not even that. And it fascinated me how we could both be friends with the same person for 10 years, but not have actually met. His friend that he brought along came and sat next to me, and we discovered that we had an interest in music and punk rock and things like that. And so we spent the night just, you know, talking. And I didn't realize, but we spent the whole night just talking to each other. That person, of course, was David. And I remember another of our friends, the one that I'd known for ages, and I was at the bar, and he was like, how are you getting on with, you know, David? He goes, he's really quiet and he never says anything. And I used to be quite extroverted. I know you probably find it hard to believe, but that's because, you know, things have happened since being quite extroverted. But I used to be more of the life of the party and the dance on the table type girl. And I said, quiet, you've got to be kidding, he hasn't shut up all night. Like, I couldn't even get a word in because he never stopped talking. And it's been 21 years and we've still got things to say to each other. And so, yep, that's basically it. We met, and I thought he was pretty cute, and then I didn't hear from him for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, and I thought, oh, I thought he liked me, but then he went all quiet and I didn't hear anything. And then I seen him somewhere, again through a mutual friend, and he'd been away working interstate. And then we went out to a comedy night, and I think we sort of became pretty inseparable after that. And it's been sort of 21 years, and it still sort of fascinates me that we never met. Even though we've got the same friends in common, we'd never met. And I mean, obviously David had lived in Denmark for 7 years, and I'd lived in the UK, and you know, travelled around Europe and stuff for a year or more. So there was that period of time. But I mean, we'd had these mutual friends who still are mutual friends, and we'd never met. It's kind of surprising. But I guess that's the way it works sometimes. You know, you don't meet people until you're sort of meant to meet them, I guess. And that was the sort of right time, and, you know, maybe for both of us, who knows. But we've still got things to talk about, and we've still got things in common, and I still enjoy his company. I'm sure he enjoys being nagged by me. And yeah, I guess that's it, you know. I guess we're very similar in ways, you know, but we're also very different as well. So I guess that adds to things. And I think in a lot of ways I'm like his mother, which I don't know how I should feel about that, but I'm not unhappy with my own company, which is like his mother, but I'm also very direct and straight to the point, which is also like his mother. And height-wise, I guess I'm also like his mother, because I'm only 5'2", and, you know, she's pretty well the same height, very sized, as I like to call it. So I guess in some ways we're similar. We've got a sort of bit of a fiery personality, both of us. Like, it takes a lot to push my buttons, but once you do, you certainly regret it, because I will just come gunning for you. I probably shouldn't be proud of that, but it's a very slow fuse. But once you get on my bad side, best get out of there pretty quick smart, because I will not be happy. And David's pretty well very similar in that respect, but he holds a grudge for a lot longer than I do. It's funny in that way. But I guess we just muddle through, and I don't know, it works. And some days are good, and some days it's a roller coaster, and you think, I guess that's what all relationships are like, and whatnot. I certainly couldn't have coped with a few things in my life without his sort of presence there. He's not so much with words or things like that, but just knowing that, you know, he was there. And hopefully he feels the same, because like all relationships, we've had our ups and we've certainly had our downs. Some have been more painful than others, and some have been a quicker ride and whatnot. But hopefully we'll have another 21. What do you think, Mr. Giraffe? Look at his little smile. I'm not sure if I'm overly happy with that one, but I feel like once I get up closer to him and can blend him out a bit more, that I'll be happier with him. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have got any secrets for long-term relationships. Ours has certainly changed over the years. Like, I've gone from working umpteen jobs and working day and night and all the rest of it to now not having a job. And there was a time where David was off work for 1.5 years, and because he was injured and then recovering, etc. So I supported him during that time. And it's funny how, you know, things change and whatnot, but hopefully we'll find, you know, a balance. I notice that he's adapted to living in Brisbane very easily, whereas it's probably been a little bit harder for me, and probably because he's got my car for work and whatnot. But, you know, these are the challenges that you have. And so I've been working on this giant project. I think I mentioned it in the last colour and chat, and I said I was working on it, and that's why I haven't filmed a colour and chat, was because I wanted to put all my spare time into getting this little project done. And you know, when you start a project, I swear I honestly thought it would take me 2 days to do this project. And now I'm thinking, what on earth possessed me to come up with that time frame? Because it is just so wrong. It is taking me so long. It's unbelievable. And now at the end of it, I'm not even sure if I should have done it. Do you know, when you get so involved in something, you think it's a good idea, but then you think, should I have really spent all this time on something? We'll see. I'd like to say it would be finished soon, but that's not going to be the case. It's just going to take me so much longer than what I thought. And I know everyone has given me some fantastic advice on, you know, biting it off one elephant at a time. And that's advice that I used to give my students, and it's how I always speak to David when he's doing a renovation project around the house, and he says, you know, oh, it's so big and I don't know where to start. And I say, you know, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, and, you know, break it up into small parts and whatnot. I'm terrible at taking my own advice. Absolutely shocking. So I'm going to have to, you know, sort of break it up a little bit and make it easier to manage, because it is really too much at the moment. But what kills me is that as part of the work that I used to do, I used to have to give quotes to people for every minute that I would spend on their job. Every minute, I'm serious on that. And I used to be pretty good at knowing how long something would take me and factoring in some variables and whatnot, and, you know, being able to accurately produce a time frame for achieving things, you know, given different variables and everything else. And it just shocks me how bad I have underestimated the time for this project. Like, how that I just didn't realise that the variables would take up so much time, given that this is something that I'm used to doing, is estimating time. So, very bad. No wonder I haven't got a job, I tell you. I'm that bad at estimating the time on my own project. I guess the problem is, like all things, you get involved. And what happened was I got involved and I made a bigger project than it needed to be. And I also fell down all these little rabbit holes and got, sidetracked onto making it bigger and bigger and bigger until the poor thing's about to burst, I tell you. So I guess that's my reason for why it's taken so long. But I'm always interested to hear if anyone's got any great time management hints or anything like that. For a long time, I used the Bethlehem Steel model of time management, where you basically write down the 3 most important things that you need to achieve that day in order of priority, and you get those done, and once you've got those done, then you can add something else to your list. And it's called Bethlehem Steel because the time management expert, I believe, that was hired to produce this time management system, it was for a place called Bethlehem Steel. And I think as the story goes, it's been so long since I've read this, that he paid him an extreme amount of money if he could improve the productivity of their business. And what he did was say, give me X amount and I will teach you this time management system, and you have to teach the next person, they have to teach the next person, and so on. And then basically that way everyone in the company was trained in this management system, which was basically just to write down the 3 things in priority and then do them. And then what happens, often, and why it's so successful, is that usually we write down these giant to-do lists and we can't sort of get through them. And mind you, I've got a to-do list and this project is on it that goes back 4 years, and it's got 37 or 38 items on it. So out of that to-do list, if I was following the Bethlehem Steel method, I would pick out the 3 most important things to do that day. And so for a long time I was using that, and I used to use it at work as well. But then I gradually just got into these giant to-do lists and kind of thinking that every day I could actually get through all of the things on the list, as well as, tasks around the house, garden, renovations and everything else. And it just blew out of control. And so now I think I really have to go back to that Bethlehem Steel model and try and do the 3 things just to retrain my mind again into what would be achievable and what's not, because otherwise I end up very disappointed with myself, and I don't like that either. So I think I'll do that. And if anyone else has a system that they recommend for time management, I'm always interested to try new things, like working for 30-minute breaks and then having a rest, or how to get through your task list. I'm always happy to read up on new things and discover new things. I like learning stuff, and I find it stimulating, especially this menopause is killing me, because I can't remember words and I get stuck all the time on like really simple words. It's so frustrating. And I'm sure you hear it in my reviews and stuff when I can't think of something very simple. It's very annoying how your mind turns against you with hormones. So I like to learn things, and also because I think it's good to be stimulated, especially when you're not in a work environment anymore and you're sort of used to that. So if anyone's got any recommendations, I absolutely love reading, by the way. I read until the cows come home, but I actually like reading textbooks. I know it's weird and some people will just think, how strange, but I actually really like textbooks and that sort of learning. I don't know, I just find as long as I learn something out of everything, whether it's a novel or a colouring book or just anything, that at least I'm achieving something. And as I always say, I've probably forgotten more things than I know, but I like to learn them in the first place and see what sticks. I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm hoping that I'm going to have good news about a new furry friend in our family next time, but I'm not going to get my hopes up. So I'm going to leave it here, and I think we might just do this one together, and I'll come back next time and do it. Sometimes I do speed colorings on here, and sometimes I just want to colour in real time. So I think we'll come back to this one real time, and we'll do the elephants maybe next time. And that's it from me. Until next time, please stay safe. If you like this video, please click that like button. It really does help. If you're not already subscribed, click the subscribe button and hit that little bell so you'll be notified when I upload. And until next time, please stay safe and happy colouring.